Sweet as. Hey team, Christian here. Obviously, it's me. Just taking 5 minutes here to chill out in the group fitness room with a bit of peace and quiet. I wanted to firstly just use this recording to introduce one of many team webinars that I'm going to do, and pretty well this is going to give you some insight into just different ways that you can not necessarily live your life, but utilize different tools that I give you in your life to make it easier, make it better, more functional. Um, so yeah, welcome. Episode 1. Said to myself the other day, maybe we should start doing some podcasts or some YouTube recordings. So I think the easiest way for me to do this is just to record it on Zoom. I'm going to upload it into YouTube. You can either find it there or I'll chuck the link in the group chat and email it to you guys as well, so you have it. And that's pretty well all the formal sort of stuff done. So I'm just going to dive straight in here, dive in deep. And first topic for, I guess, podcast, we'll call them number one, through webinar number one, is self-development. Okay, so I'm really big on self-development. You all know that. Just recently, actually, managed to grab myself some AirPods and I've been running around with them in my ears. Got them sitting right next to me here. By the way, if you haven't got some form of Bluetooth headphone, life changer, I'm telling you. Definitely life changer. Thank you, Amber, for recommending that. Absolutely made my world easier in the last few days, answering phone calls and getting through some personal development stuff that I wanted to do here and there. So, I mean, let's round in on that topic first and foremost. Personal development. How we're going to describe that is working on yourself as a being, no matter whether that's physically, mentally, spiritually, etc. I mean, forms of self-development, some people find different techniques, obviously, in those various tools, various directions you can go in. So firstly, spiritually, and I suppose that has a big part of religion and your beliefs and values in life and what you want to try and portray in yourself and then reach other people as well. So religion's a big part of that. Some people are religious, some people aren't. I'm okay with whether you are or whether you're not. I myself am baptized a Catholic, but I don't necessarily practice Catholicism. Um, I've sort of taken a bit from a lot of different religions and formed my own beliefs as to how I see religion and how we're going to move from there. So that's one form. The next form is um, personally developing. I mean, it's a very broad topic. So, I mean, rather than breaking it down, I think the best way to go around it is to just sum up a few different things that you can do to personally develop yourself. So, like I said, spiritually there, that's one form. Meditation is another one. A lot of people find that meditation helps them. Realistically, as a whole, I think it comes down to me personally. I think it comes down to who you are as a person. Okay, what sort of traits do you show? When do they come out? When are they expressed? When are different emotions expressed? And why is the big thing around that. If you can figure out why these emotions are being expressed at certain times, it's going to be a life changer as to being able to control them, manage them, use them at a certain time or not. So I mean, when you all started with me, you all would have done a DISC profiling, and that's done by Tony Robbins. That's his formula. That basically splits you into 4 different personality types: dominant, influential, steady, or conscientious. So each are a different personality trait. There is no right or wrong answer. It just shows me and your colleagues the type of person you are, type of personality you have, and how we can best utilize that to your strengths and weaknesses and vice versa, the business and also your colleagues around. So, for example, someone like me, I'm a high D, I'm a very dominant person. I don't like wishy-washy information. I just straight down to the facts, know what I want, give me the answers, okay, let's go. And look, there are strengths and weaknesses to any of these traits. So with mine, for example, yeah, I'm fantastic at making a decision or getting to the answer really quickly. However, when I do that, I may also block out some feedback from people and just go with my train of thought because it's easier, quicker, get the job done, keeping everyone happy or keeping the train rolling, as it were. And that's also a weakness, because I could benefit from listening to other people's input from time to time, and definitely on every topic that needs to be discussed. So just as an example, that's my personality type. If you want to go back and look at your disc profiling or do the test again, because it's really good to redo it every 6 to 12 months, your personality traits change slightly, and that's dependent on a little bit of perturbation, a little bit of pressure that you're under. Okay, so I mean, when you do the disc profiling, if you go do it again, here's the link. Get a pen and paper ready. Write it down. It is www.tonyrobbins, TonyRobbins.com.au/disc profile, DISC profile. When you go and do that again, or you want to have a read of your old results and compare it, there's two types of personalities that come up. And basically, one is based on you at home, so what you're like at home. So whether you're always making decisions for yourself, or you're living with family, you don't necessarily making the most decisions in the household, etc., etc. And then also it portrays down to the type of role you are at work, the type of role that you play at work. So the two personality types at home and at work. And it's really cool to see the difference, because obviously the different role you're in, you would have different structures, different processes, different ways that you do things. So at home, you might live with a bunch of people and you don't make the decisions. And at work, you may be in a decision-making role and a supervisory role. And all of a sudden, your personality traits have changed to be a very dominant person, always making the calls. And on the flip side of that, it could be that at work, you always have to make decisions. And then like myself at home, I don't necessarily want to make the decisions. So I'll sit back and let things happen. So I guess, like, as a whole there, understanding your personality traits and who you are as a person is really big on the self-development side of things, because I believe that if you can understand the different personality traits that you have and portray, then you can master, control, manage them better, so that, for example, if someone says something that niggles you, you don't blow up in their face. You take it, you absorb it, and you wonder why they said that. Why then? How can we approach that situation differently, rather than losing your marbles at them? So, I mean, as a whole, there, yeah, there's different ways to go about self-development. A few tools that I would definitely recommend. Most definitely podcasts. Like, number one is a podcast. Thanks to my trusty little AirPods here, audiobooks, podcast, new best friend, all day, every day, whenever there's 5 minutes. If I'm driving around town for 5 minutes, ducking here and there, whack the AirPods in, press play on my phone, good to go. If a call comes in, I can answer it, etc., etc. So that's a really cool tool to use. Podcasts and audiobooks, I'm all for them, 100%. And they don't have to be necessarily about how to stay positive or how to be a better leader or whatever. They're all examples of podcasts you can listen to, but there's a million podcasts out there, and honestly, to get started, just pick something that really interests you, whack it in and just listen. It could be on the walk to work. It could be a drive here and there. It could be sitting at home mowing the lawn, or just being at home. Don't be afraid to actually chuck that in. Meditation is another one. I've definitely tried it. I have tried it. It doesn't work for me necessarily, but that's not to say it doesn't work for anyone else. I find that if you're in a very go, go, go mood, then it's really good to just zen yourself out. But just to hone in on meditation as a whole, I don't necessarily mean sit there, cross your legs, chill out. Like, that's not necessarily a meditation that you require. It could be simple things like going for a walk. Okay, that could be your form of meditation, going for a run, etc., etc. There's a million different versions of meditation. You don't have to sit there with some lull music in the background and try it that way. That's what I tried, and originally I didn't know any better, so that's what I tried, and it didn't work for me. However, I find that when I take some time out, just go for a walk, sit, go look at a nice view, it really just gets me to stop, gets me to take 5 minutes out of my day, really process, smell the flowers, as they call it, take 5 minutes to really consider what's going on. how you can do things differently, what's happened in your week, maybe just a bit of self-reflection is massive on that. So, I mean, again, there's a million ways that you can focus on self-development, and I really want you guys to nail in on one, because I think that if you can control one, or you can master one, then you can add another one to that. And as you progress, you'll add another one. And before long, you'll be a master of them all. You'll be doing a little bit of meditation, some self-reflection, some quiet time. You've got your headphones in, doing your podcast when you go with the zone. You might like to sit back and read a book in your own time. Like, I feel as though if you just pick one that you think it might work for you, give it a crack. If it doesn't, that's okay. Try another one, try another form. But as a whole, definitely understanding who you are as a person, your personality traits, what your values and beliefs are, and how they can be impacted, reflected, and also changed by other people's opinions is really important. So task one, I suppose we're going to come to sum it up. Task one of crew webinar number one is to sit down, take 5 minutes, grab a sheet of paper, grab a book. I actually left it on my desk. Got a life journal on the weekend, so it's really cool to write down some different appreciations, some things you want to let go of, some things that you're grateful for, and some things that went well in your day. And that's a bit of self-reflection, but it's actually taking the time to put pen to paper is a bit different to sitting there going, oh yeah, geez, we had a good day. Yeah, things turned out great. It's not actually processing in your mind that everything went well. Okay, so putting pen to paper just solidifies it a little bit, makes you understand it, and you can always go back, read it, and self-reflect on those reflections themselves. So that's really cool to know. I do also recommend that's step one. Step one from this webinar. If there's a result that I want out of this webinar, that is it. I want you to write it down, understand who you are, understand your values, your traits, your morals, etc. And if you want to have a look at your disc profile, let me know. If you want to do it again, it's free. Jump on the net, type in that www.tonyrobbins.com.au/disc profile and do it again. By all means, do it again. Understand who you are. Read it thoroughly. If you are unsure, come find me. Let's take 5 minutes. Let's run through it. That's simple, simple stuff. If you want to go a little bit further, I just did one recently. I did two actually. The next one is Myers-Briggs. If you want to try that one out, again, Myers-Briggs. Jump on that, give that one a go. It's another free one. These are all just different perspectives of looking at your personality traits and trying to give it to you in a different format so that you can find what resonates with you the best and then you can understand it better. The last one I did, which is quite a massive one, is the flipping profile, and you actually get 6 perspectives from around you and yourself to analyze, assess different. I think it was 300 words in a big list, and you had to select the ones that best represented you, and there were a multitude of words. It was crazy. And then you get 6 other people to do that with you as well. And then you're assessing yourself, they're assessing you, and then they put it together in a graph. And it's interesting to see how you see yourself and then how you are portrayed to other people or how they see you. It's really interesting to get that contradiction sometimes and also the agreements in others. It's really cool to understand that and go, wow, okay, I see myself as this, but everyone's seeing me as being pushy or upset or cranky, and that's not what I'm feeling at all. So a lot of that comes back to the body language. How are you ending that conversation? How are you having those conversations? Et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, number one out of this is to sit down with a bit of paper or grab yourself a $3 book from the cheap shop, a gratitude diary, write down some values, some traits, some morals that you have, and definitely do that profiling test so that you can understand what's happening there. Moving back to the book side of thing, moving back to the podcast, the audio books, what I would recommend, number one, if you haven't read it, I'm just on the audio book now. I'll whip it up and I will show you really quickly. Is this one right here, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Absolutely a godsend of a read. So worthwhile doing that. Another one that we're going to touch base on in a little bit is the Barefoot Investor. Okay, that's going to be more so in our next webinar. Really, really cool book to read. It gives you a massive perspective and life changer on getting a head start with your financials. That webinar, I'm going to go through that book thoroughly with you. But if you want to get a head start and a read on that, you're more than welcome to grab it. If you would like to borrow my copy, let me know. I can give it to you. From a podcast point of view, there's a million positivity ones. I've chucked one in the group chat this week, and I'll also send you a Tony Robbins one that I have access to because I've done a Tony Robbins course. They are absolutely fantastic. Okay, so from a podcast and a webinar self-development point of view, that's definitely something that I'd be looking at doing. And it's funny enough when you start listening to a bunch of podcasts that are trying to develop yourself as a human being, as a colleague, as a friend, as a person. It's interesting how these different tricks and traits they give you, when you implement them, makes a hell of a difference, and you don't even realize you're doing it until someone gives you that clarification or that compliment to say, hey, thanks for not biting my head off today. Thanks for understanding our conversation. It makes a hell of a difference. So, yeah, just subtly, fantastic method for self-development I found for myself. On my list here, what have I got? Yep. So we've got the life journal. Definitely a point to write that down. Another thing they call that is a gratitude diary. So grab yourself a little book. You can write 3 things that you're thankful for, 3 things that didn't go your way, and then something that you're going to let go of. Kmart, they've got one for $5. Fantastic. Go grab it. It's got enough pages to last you the whole year, and that's also good for a self-reflection to rehash on what I've already been saying. 2 things that I want to run through from me personally that I've noticed and have done, have implemented, do every day. And I know the gym team, if you guys will be watching this, you definitely do it every day, and I love that. One thing, and the first thing I would definitely recommend is an I am statement. Okay. So I did this with my business coach. Was silly at first. Everyone's laughing, writes down. We had to write 21 I am statements. I am loyal. I am going to succeed. I am grateful. I am whatever it is, prosperous. I am rich. So to give you a breakdown on I am or affirmations, it's affirming. Sometimes it depends on the I am. So if it's, for example, I'm a great mum and you're a mother, yes, you are a mum, agreed. You've already affirmed that by having the child. What you're trying to do is affirm something that you might not necessarily be right now, or you feel as though you're not. You're affirming that in your mind by saying it every single day. You're affirming the fact that, yes, today when I get up, I'm going to be an absolutely great mother. Every other day after that, I am also going to be a great mother. So affirmations are a powerful tool. I know that I think the gym team, they started off with 1 or 2. Now they've moved to 3. Some even have 5, 6, 7, up to 10. I have 18 in total. And as I feel as though I've accomplished one, I'll definitely get clarification from the people around me, and I'll cross one up and go, yeah, I am that. I'm happy. I don't need to continually tell myself that's what I am, because deep down inside, I know I am that. I know that I am honest or trustworthy or successful, etc., etc. Like whatever your I am statements need to be to put you in a better space of mind is whatever they need to be. And I'm okay with you turning around, writing a few down, coming to me or flick them to me in the group chat and say, hey, what do you think? Give me your opinion on this. I'm happy to throw my input in there and let you know what I'm thinking, or how you can best do that. And I mean, to give you a bit of an insight, when we did our 21, at first, like I said, it was absolutely silly. We were talking to complete strangers. It was like, I didn't mean anything. We just brushed it off. But, pardon me, when we did it again a second time, somehow it was deep and meaningful. So the difference that we had to do was we said it with passion. We had to say it with intent that that's what we had to do. We had to say it as if someone had a gun to our head and was going to blow our head off. We had to say, no, I am adamant. I am affirming the fact of who I want to be as a human being. So, I mean, my recommendation, step 2 out of this webinar, is to write down 3. I'm happy with 3 affirmations. Write them down, chuck them to me. Let me peruse them. But I want you to say them to yourself for the first week or 2, and I do this with a lot of our online coaching clients, is say them to yourself for the first week or 2. I'm okay with that after I've had a look at them. I'm totally okay with that, and you can keep them very short. They don't have to be I am, adjective, adjective, adjective. You don't have to make them extremely long. Just keep them simple. Something that's strong, simple, and going to be continuous. You can remind yourself easily and say it over and over again. For example, one of my clients picked three. We approved them. She says them to herself over and over again um, on the drive to work. It's about 40-minute drive for her. And she also has an audio book playing in between. So she'll listen to one chapter. She'll say her I ams 2-3 times, audio book for the trip, does a chapter and then says her I ams until she pulls up at work, which is roughly a decent amount of time. And that's definitely cementing them into her life, and hats off to her. That was fantastic. But that's something I want you guys to actually take on board and process. And they may sound silly or it may feel silly to start with, but honestly, once you're saying it with determination and passion, you'll understand how strong it can be. And I know this isn't for everyone. I know I am statements aren't for everyone, but the second that to change it up, you can also do what's called a why statement. And basically, the why statement is understanding who you are as a person, your values, your morals, summing them up. And as a whole, Amber went through this really well, so I might get her to chuck it in the group chat. But a why statement is simply, why do you get up out of bed every morning and do what you do? Why is it you do that? Okay, it's really important to understand what your why statement is, so that you don't just get up every day hating your life, not wanting to go to work because it's just a bore. We want to understand what our why statement is. Okay. And that pretty well sums up point two. So point two of this webinar is to basically get on and write down your 3 I am statements, send them through to me so I can understand, and I can give you some pointers on them. But I want you to definitely say them to yourself for the first week or so, and then you can find someone that you trust to hold you accountable, and you can say them or record it and send it to them every single day, so that they're holding you accountable to that as well, giving you a bit more justification to it. And lucky last is a default diary. So if an I am's not working for you, a why statement. So one of the two, listen to it, record it, send it to some people to hold you accountable, including myself. And that's stage two. To follow on from that, number 3 is I want to run through a little bit of time management with you. So a big thing that I always hear is I didn't do anything on the weekend because I didn't have time, or I ran out of time, or I don't have time to do that, or I'd love to exercise but I don't have time, or I'd love to do this, I'd love to do that. And honestly, you're just creating excuses for yourself, plain and simple. Not afraid to say it. And look, some people are busy, but I honestly believe there's a way around it, and I have used that excuse plenty of times myself. There's definitely a way around it, and what we call that is a default diary. So I'm going to share my screen with you really quickly and show you a few examples of a default diary. Here we go. Share. Beauty. All right. So you guys can see that there. This is just an example of a default diary. All right. Let me zoom in for you real quick. Maybe I'm not that tech savvy. But as a nutshell, you get that, you understand that. The default diary is breaking down your day and putting a time frame on it. So you're actually scheduling in what you need to be doing and when. As a whole here, if you look on the screen, pointing at it with my pen, not the cursor. On the screen here, you can see read/listen time. So they're spending some time to read and listen to a podcast, an audio book, whatever it may be. Actually sit down and read a hard copy book. Secondly, here they've put in exercise. So they're scheduling when they're getting their exercise in, full stop. Okay. Again, something that we do with our coaching clients. Obviously, you've got set work hours. They get blocked out from here to here or here to there, like when they are. Block that time out. Make it work. If it's 9 to 5 every day, for example, then 9 to 5 is blocked out. That's inevitable. It needs to be done. You can't get around that one. But what you do have control over is like this morning slot here and the evening slot. And I definitely recommend that it's okay you chuck some social time in there. So, I mean, first one here, you can have wake up, breakfast, shit, shower, shave, whatever it is for you. You can schedule that in here. I'm okay with that. But after work scheduled in, the two things that I want to see in there is maybe on a Friday afternoon after work, maybe some self-reflection before you go and have your social time with your friends or go out partying, whatever it may be. That's the first thing I want to see is some self-reflection time scheduled in. It can be anywhere in the week, but I just love the fact it's at the end of the week to reflect on the week. Secondly, I want to have that reading time. I want that scheduled in for a second foremost. And then for the third foremost, an exercise point. If you're not really big on exercise, I don't care if that's just a simple walk, get out, do something. But I want some gratitude, some self-reflection time. I want reading and listening webinar time, and I want some exercise scheduled in. And then you can slot, oh, I'm going to have lunch here, or I'm going to have friends over here, or I'm going to go and have dinner with my mum and dad here, whatever it may be, okay? Those are the three that need to go in first. Gratitude, self-reflection down here. You can be anywhere. I'm a big believer on a Friday afternoon. Read and listen time. Spend some time doing some reading and audio books, and then schedule some exercise in, okay? Then slot the rest of your crap in the day that gets caught up. Play with a dog, spend time with the kids, whatever it may be, schedule all that in, okay? And it's okay if it takes up the rest of the time. You just haven't got time to fit anything else in your diary. So that's a default diary as a whole. Just to sum it up, as you can see in this example, it's obviously a poor example, and purely because there's a gap here, all right? There's also massive gaps here. So I'm okay with a gap if it's no more than half an hour, okay? And if it's got no more than half an hour and you tell me you don't have time, I'm going to say, well, there's a gap, all right? So if it's not filled and you tell me you don't have time for anything, I'm going to call you out right there and show you where the time is. If not, you're going to do it to yourself. But finally here, you can see Saturday and Sunday are completely blank. I'm not okay with this. I want you to schedule, and I'm okay with you to schedule from 6 in the morning when you wake up to 6 at night as time, family time, time with the kids. And if you're going away for the weekend, of course, that's going to be in there, whatever it may be. But I need that scheduled in. I need to actually see. If it's just blank, I'm not okay with that, because you'll just sit around and do nothing, okay? If it's like, oh, I've got to mow the lawn, got to do this, got to do that, schedule them in there, make it happen. And again, the biggest way you can hold yourself accountable to this is there's three ways. Firstly, once you've done it, get it approved by me. Then you can pin it up on your fridge, on your wall, in the toilet, wherever you need it to be for you to see it every day. So if you go, oh, what should I be doing? You revert back to that and go, oh, yep, that's what I need to be doing. Second way is to give it to a loved one, give it to someone that you live with. Make sure they hold you accountable, and if they see you sitting on the couch being lazy, they'll go, oh, what are you meant to be doing? Get up, go do this, because it's on your default diary. They're holding you accountable to it. And lastly, I think from a personal point of view, you actually need to, if you're putting it in some form of digital calendar, set the reminder so the reminders tell you what's happening. And lastly on that, you can also set a time and an alarm in your phone to block that out, or starts belling when it's time to go to the gym, or time to get up and go to work, or time spending with kids, etc. You drop what you're doing and you get on with your day as to what you're meant to be doing. So that's a default diary. If you want an example, feel free to come and get it from me. I've got plenty of examples. You can rip one off the net. Any digital calendar, it's basically a calendar. I just want you to fill in what it is you're doing, okay? I'm okay with a minimum of 15-minute slots, but don't go overboard. Like if you just want some downtime or play some video games, and that goes for an hour, schedule in an hour, okay? So that's everything from me, team, for webinar 1. I'm pretty cool with that. I'm pretty happy with that. If you guys have any questions on that, I'm going to chuck a bit of a description into video as well when I upload it, so you can have a read, get a few pointers that if you missed them over the call, you can definitely have a read of them again, and go from there. Any questions, feel free to hit me up in the team chat, and I'm looking forward to webinar 2. That it's going to be a little bit longer, going a bit more into the financial side of things, into that book, The Barefoot Investor. If you want to get a head start on it, you can, but I'm super keen to get into that one with you. And then the future topics that I've got written down are going to be wicked. So, all right, team, I'll leave it at that. Over and out. Hope you have a great week.